Hardison, is everything all set? Let's see. Pretzels, orange soda. I think this is it. Perfect. Let's go steal us a Leverage sequel. Party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. It's been a long time coming. About 8 years, apparently. I haven't even noticed that it was that long because I'm still watching the reruns on a very regular basis. But this, see, okay, so yes, oh, you're a wrestling fan. I am a wrestling fan. But before I was a wrestling fan, I was a TV geek. Like, I'm the only 4-year-old on the planet who tried to tape the Golden Girls back in the day. I'm a TV geek, okay? So when I get the chance to geek out on some television, I'm gonna geek out on some television, and this is the chance to geek out on some television. We have, of course, Leverage Redemption, and boy, oh boy, in terms of Leverage Redemption and how they did this and the rollout. Let's talk about the rollout first. We're gonna go into non-spoiler stuff first before we get into some of the details of the actual episode. I was just gonna watch one episode. I ended up watching two, and actually I started the third one, which should tell you a little bit ahead of time how I feel about this. But I started the third one. I started watching because there were two questions I had that they didn't answer. One of them wasn't answered in the first. They went with a lot of setting up, a lot of reconciliation, a lot of bridging the gap between the finale and what we have right here, as well as in the first episode. So they didn't answer the other question that I had in the second episode. Obviously, the two questions that I had, and if you had followed or seen me mention this at all in any Leverage discussion groups, Twitter, etc., there were the two wild cards. The two wild cards were how they handled Nate and Hardison's little sister. Those are the two wild cards that I wasn't sure about. I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I trust the team here. I trust the crew here. And non-spoiler, I think this is, listen, so far so good. So far so good. Before we get into the actual details, the rollout of this was an interesting thing too, because we had gotten the word that it was going to be July 9th, this Friday. As you're seeing this, officially it's the day that it comes out. However, apparently it was already on Prime the day before. Now, I would have jumped on this, except I was already busy. I was already doing stuff because I'd actually planned to make sure that I was up like I was going to be like, okay, they're going to drop it. Maybe they'll drop it like 9 here, midnight on the East Coast, right? Or maybe they'll drop it, maybe it's specific to each time period. So like I'm from LA, so I'm like, maybe it'll drop at midnight here. Either way, I'll watch it, I'll review it and get it out there like on that Friday to get early morning. I could have apparently done it Thursday morning. I didn't even know. I didn't know it was out. Nobody knew it was out. Somebody like dropped it. It was like, why is it out already? I was like, what? Shit, it is. But I'm busy. I'm doing other things, so I can't exactly get to it right now. So it ends up working out where I did, in fact, end up sitting down and watching it round about the time I was probably going to watch it anyway. But anybody who got the early experience, good for you. Apparently, there's a watch party that's going on the Friday that it drops, which should be the day that you see this video. So that'll be fantastic for anybody who wants to do that. They've got the whole season. So that'll take up my weekend. That'll be the weekend. In terms of non-spoiler, I'll say cast chemistry is still there. New cast works in very well. The feel is still there. The tone is still there. The humor is still there. The heart is still there. There were a couple of like straggling lines that straggling like lines or circumstances, not even circumstances, but like a couple of like little kind of corny parts of it. But that's the charm of the show. It was always there anyway. There are a couple of corny things in the other show that I'm like, why they even do that? But that still is the style of the show. It fits with everything else is going on. It's seemingly it's hard to see that time has changed. Obviously, there's some aging that actually went on. Obviously, in the 8 years since the show, of the cast, of the equipment, the way that stuff is filmed, even as little as that would be, because we still had HD 8 years ago. We ain't that old, but as little as that would be, you could see a little bit of a difference. But it's not jarring. Like it all kind of works. And I'm not a fan, particularly of sequels and reboots. I feel like a lot of times they're cash grabs. I feel like a lot of times um, they miss the heart of what it is that they wanted in the first place, sequels or reboots. Case in point, Girl Meets World. I think, you severely lose me when you put Sean with anybody but Angela. Like that now officially means Girl Meets World is not canon. Like it's just not canon. So like stuff like that, but like so far, so good. Noah Wiley was not a wild card for me. I watched ER. He was not a wild card. I'm not even talking about Librarians, because I honestly actually have never actually seen Librarians. Heard it was fantastic. I saw the poster, the little Easter egg poster that they had in Leverage. I don't know how many months or years before they actually did the Librarians, but I've seen his work in ER from when he was the little punk kid that I think Michael Crichton actually wanted to have running the ER at the end, but then he got too big for ER, and now he's back here doing this show, and he fits in with the rest of the show. He doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, and he's not taking anybody's place. He's doing his own thing. You know me. I'm very, very cynical. I like to think realistic, but a lot of people think cynical. I'm very, very cynical, especially of stuff like that. But it works here. Again, a lot of the stuff where you're going to hear me say it works a lot. If you want to take a sip of your orange soda, every time I say it works, you can. You absolutely can, because it does work. So I think that's as much as I can get into without getting into spoilers. So why torture myself? Why torture you? Let's get into spoilers. Take my sip before we dip into spoiler territory. Okay, so the big overarching shadow of the first episode is Nate. And actually, again, he's brought up throughout the at least first couple episodes. I'm only 8 minutes into the third episode. Already a drop in there for Nate. That's the big overarching thing. And it starts with this. I was curious how they were going to do this. Of course, we all know about the allegations with Timothy Hutton. Again, I am in no way, shape, or form able to form any kind of judgment one way or the other. As of recording, it's an allegation. I don't know what happened. But with that cloud hanging over Timothy Hutton, for the purposes of at least getting the show done, for the purposes of the legacy of the show, and probably for IMDb Network, they didn't want to associate themselves with Timothy Hutton, which I understand. Under the circumstances, it is what it is. And so that does cast a huge cloud over it, because what do you do? What do you do? Well, they kill him off. They don't kill him off. He's already dead, apparently over a year. Now, listen, this is Leverage. We're talking, okay? Sophie Deveraux was dead too. Okay, so there's and they don't explicitly say. It's interesting. They don't actually explicitly say Nate's dead. They just kind of say gone, which honestly I'm okay with, because again, at this particular point, as I'm recording this, shortly as they filmed this, it was allegation. Is allegation. They don't know. They don't know what may happen. There may be some huge thing that comes to light that says he's categorically innocent, et cetera, so that cleans his name up or something like that, and they can bring him back for a special appearance at the end of the series, or in flashbacks or something like that. The door's not 187% closed to a working relationship with Timothy Hutton. If by some stroke of something turns out everything was false, and he is has a halo above his head at the end of this. However, if it's not that, then they do have that option, at least to make it appear like, yes, Nate is gone. Nate is dead, actually. So we see the gravestone. They meet at the gravestone, But again, we're talking about thieves. We're talking about Sophie Deveraux's been dead. It's not entirely out of the picture that in reality, pending whatever happens with Timothy Hutton, that Nate isn't actually dead. It's not entirely out of the picture. They frame it fairly well that he, you can go ahead and assume that he is. So watching this, assuming that he is actually an interesting concept, because you see Sophie mourning the loss of her love, the loss of Nate. Now, the show is also mourning the loss of Timothy Hutton at the same time, and making it apparent that he was huge. He was the star of the show, a big section of the show. And they have to acknowledge it, and they have to go on past this loss. However permanent that may or may not be, they have to go on past this loss. So really, you have the show itself, the production itself, and you can see some of the actors sort of grieving the loss of their friend, because I'm sure he was their friend on the set, as well as the characters grieving the loss of Nate, including and especially Sophie. And so she's dragged into one more job with Noah Wyle. Fairly, the trailer was fairly accurate about this and fairly straightforward with it. Like, you knew what you were getting. Noah Wyle used to work for these very, very bad people as a lawyer. He knows their ins and outs. He's going to get the crew in to have their, to redeem something from these terrible, terrible people, which was the crux of Leverage to begin with. But the difference is Noah Wyle is actually more of a supporting role, right? Gina Bellman, Miss Sophie, don't call me Laura Deveraux, don't call me Deveraux, whatever. Miss Liz, I guess her name would be Laura Ford, right? She's the head of the crew now. She's the they don't mastermind. I don't know if they call her mastermind, but she's the leader of the crew. Obviously, of course, Hardison and Parker were still together. Somebody on some forum was like, I wonder if Hardison and Parker are still together. If they weren't, I would have stopped watching immediately. Like, I'd have turned it completely and totally off. Of course, they're in game. They pretzels, orange soda. They're in game. That's it. That's all you need to know. They're in game. Okay? You can't have a Leverage reunion without Parker and Hardison still being together and still being happy. You can't do that. Eliot is back. The hair is back. I missed the hair. I really did miss the hair. I'm not gonna lie, I really did miss the hair. It really did suit. Like, the short hair is whatever. I missed the hair. Like, everybody seemed to just kind of, they didn't, like, time passed. You can see a little bit of aging, but not really. Like, the characters are still there, and the chemistry that they have still works. And it's very apparent very quickly that the chemistry that they have still works. I think we've all seen pictures of them kind of getting together after the show ended. There was one clip that I remember seeing that I've seen a few different times now of Christian Kane concert, and there's Beth Riesgraf there and Aldous there, and we even get a Damn It Hardison on the stage as I guess he's trying to play the song or whatever. Like, the chemistry is still there with them, and it really does show on the screen. I'm ecstatic about that. Like, that's very hard to do after a decade. That's very, very hard to do, to still have that chemistry all the way through and have it be like clockwork. Nobody skipped a beat. Nobody missed anything. It's all right there. It's still clockwork, baby. It's still right there. The crew gets together to try to beat Noah Wyle's lawyer boss, who has a terrible track record and name behind him. Protests through the as he's trying to put up an art installation or art presentation in a gallery somewhere, and trying to rehabilitate his name, not for any positive purposes, but just for being, he knows he's an asshole. He's still an asshole. And the guy that they got for this, very good. He relishes it very well. With stories like this, with characters like this, and especially with shows that stem from, this isn't still on basic cable. You're gonna have to excuse the chopper. This is still the hood. Don't let the threads fool you. But with characters like this on shows like this that stem from basic cable, it can easily get cheesy. It's easy to be cheesy, and with a lighthearted show like this, it's easy to be cheesy. But he plays it well. He plays it right in that wheelhouse of the show, right in that wheelhouse where you're like, yeah, I want to see him get his, and right in that wheelhouse where you can put him and that character with any number of famous billionaires that you know, and millionaires and politicians that you know that have gotten away with figurative and maybe even literal murder and other horrible crimes, but still get to rehabilitate their names. Oh, you just want to see them go down. You just want to see them go down. And this episode really does play with that. Now, again, a significant portion of that, we're talking about them, at least Sophie, getting back in the groove. The rest of the team has still been doing Leverage International, which fantastic. I'm so glad that they kept that thread going of Leverage International. I remember in the last season, they did the split episode. They did the one where Nate and Sophie were doing the art thing with Sterling. Man, I still hear Sterling's. I just heard Sterling's theme in my head. Like I just heard it. It's like I just heard Sterling's theme. So they had that episode, and then they had the episode with the rest of the crew. I affectionately call them the kids because we had the parent episode and then we had the kids, Eliot, Parker, and Hardison doing their thing, and that was the first short hair Eliot, and okay, but that seemed like it was going to be a backdoor pilot for Leverage International, is what it seemed like it was. That just never, I guess, maybe materialized or anything like that. That's what it looked like to me. It was a different tone than the rest of the show. Like they did different things. Some of those things could have worked, like the thing of seeing Hardison see the mechanics in his head or whatever, sort of like what you would Iron Man in his mask. But it's interesting that didn't carry over, and it probably wouldn't here because Hardison is going to be more of a special guest star because our boy Aldous has blown all the way up since then. And, because of Leverage, I'm a big fan of Aldous Hodge. Because of Leverage, I saw Brian Banks. I reviewed that. I took pretzels and orange soda into the theater to see Brian Banks. I did the same thing for Straight Outta Compton. I will do the same thing for is it Black Lightning? I will do not Black Lightning. That's Black Adam. I will do the same thing for Black Adam. The pretzels and orange soda will be going with me to see Black Adam. So yes, big fan of that guy. Great actor, and his acting improved. But still, City on the Hill was also good. It's a marvel to watch these guys roll right back in. Like nothing changed. No time passed. And they rolled right back in like it's seamless. Like it's absolutely seamless. And again, Noah Wyle fits. You see him trying to pick up. He's sort of the avatar for any newer viewers that might be watching this. Because it's a huge thing. Listen. If you're a Leverage fan, you know the terminology. You know the "Let's Go Steal Us." You know the pretzel reference. You know the orange soda reference. You know Nana. You know all these things, right? He's the avatar for the new guys who are just coming in to watch. Maybe just heard about it. Maybe they're a friend of theirs who's just as sick a Leverage fan as us. Listen. This is a small. Listen, I'm talking to just us at this particular point, right? But he's the avatar for that, and he works very well, and the chemistry is really good. I'm repeating myself at this point, so let's go to the second episode because they didn't get into the little sister thing because she didn't show up in the first episode. She shows up in the second episode. Now, why, Surreal, do you think that Brianna, or did you think that Brianna, Hardison's little sister, was going to be a wild card? Because we didn't know anything about her, or we knew very little about her. There were some comments when you would see pictures of her. There was a little interview, the get to know the characters thing or whatever, the trailer. You see these comments from the same people that kind of turned up for some of these other reboots, sequels, reimaginings, newer properties that talk about, for lack of a better term, representation, wokeness, etc. So you kind of start to hear a little scuttlebutt about different aspects of this, personal aspects of this character, not necessarily her skills. And when that happens, when that tends to happen in properties, those characters tend to be poorly written, because those characters tend to be caricatures of whatever identity they're trying to identify as and get woke points for whatever they're doing. And they tend to detract and distract from the story, from the chemistry. It tends to be a burden on the property as a whole. So far, that hasn't, one episode and 8 minutes. But so far, that hasn't happened. So far, she's fit right in. I am flabbergasted. Because she's just a hack. Because she just works. The actress works, right? She fits in. You can see the chemistry she has with Aldous. I don't know how they did that. Listen, tip of the orange soda to Aldous Hodge again for his. I've said this in a couple of different things I've reviewed of his, but his growth as an actor is astounding. It's astounding. Watch Aldous in the first season of Leverage and watch him on anything he does now. It's astounding. And as somebody who's worked professionally in different things, I'm not going to say, actor, but I've worked, I've acted, I've wrestled, I've entertained, I've hosted, I've played sports. There is something to being able to generate chemistry with your dance partner, with the person you're working with. And it's easy to do if you've done it for 5 years and you get together every couple months and go to people's concerts and dinner and stuff like that, and you're friends like that. It's hard to generate that kind of chemistry with someone brand new, with someone that the audience doesn't know and is trying to get to know, and without having it seem heavy-handed. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Leverage fans are so passionate about this property and love this property so much, because the people involved behind the scenes respect the love that the fans have for the show. And that respect comes out in the product. And that's what we've gotten so far in these first couple episodes. They don't want to insult our intelligence. They don't want to insult the fans. They want us to continue to come and be part of the Leverage family and bring more people in and love this little comfort show that we've all grown to love since how did I watch? It was on Netflix. It was just on Netflix, and I had nothing else to watch. I had never heard of this show before. I was like, what is this? And I fell in love with it, and I finished it that weekend. And I'll probably and I think it was 4 seasons at that point that were on. I finished it in a week or a weekend or something like that. I think I'm probably going to wrap this up by Sunday. Because it's still in the groove. It still works, man. Brianna works as a character. She's not a cog in the machine, or not what's a metaphor? She doesn't suck. She doesn't suck. We still need more time to get to know her a little bit more, but she doesn't suck. She's very good. Very good. Again, 1 episode. How do you say very good with anybody for 1 episode? But she's good. She's good in that role. Noah Wiley, good in that role. They fit. They work. It doesn't throw off the momentum, the pace of the show. It continues it. I'm not mad at this. I'm not mad at this sequel. And listen, go back and watch any of my other videos, really about anything else. I love to be mad. That's the whole purpose. The real purpose is to drink. Age of the cocktail, baby. But I'm easy to get mad. I'm easy to upset. I'm easy to be contrarian. I can't be contrarian about this. I like it. It confuses me too. I like it. And again, everybody comes right back into the roles that they work in. They give you the references, Of course, they give you the references, the little fan service in the first episode. After that, the second episode, you still see a little bit more of that. The let's go steal a thing, I think, is going to continue. But I think they're trying to build a new thing behind it while still being appreciative and serviceable to the fans. And that's a level of respect. That's a level of respect and appreciation from a property in Hollywood that you don't see as often as you would hope as a fan. How many times does something new come out from a property, a reboot or a sequel, and especially over the last 10 years or so, 10 to 15 years, and the fan, it's just, the fans are wonky about it. You know what I mean? Like I'll give you an example. I like Star Wars until I saw Phantom Menace, and then I stopped watching them. And then I watched Rogue One, and that was fantastic. I like Rogue One, but it didn't bring me back into the Star Wars fold. And other Star Wars fans, they're still making money, but the critical response of them, I can't say the same thing here. I'm a fan of Leverage. I watch it on a fairly regular basis. Like I go through so I go through binges where like the last thing I'll watch before I nod off to sleep will either be Psych or Leverage, ironically enough, and they reference each other in the shows. It just depends on my mood at the time. It'll be Psych or it'll be Leverage. Right now, right now it can't be Leverage because I'm too excited about this, and I won't go to sleep right away. Right now it can't be this. Right now I'm on a Psych binge, but when I'm wide awake, it'll be Leverage. And I recommend, if you're a Leverage fan, go ahead, watch you can't, if you don't want to binge it right away, you really can't just do episode 1, because it continues into episode 2. You really got to do the first 2. Even as I'm doing this right now, it's going to be hard for me to cut this off and not just continue watching all the way through. I got stuff to do in the morning. So, in the spirit of how I usually do long overdue movie reviews, which I do every Sunday here on the channel, out of what's an Amazon Prime membership now? What is it, $9.99? Fine. Out of $9.99, Leverage Redemption, at least the first 2 episodes, are worth a very distinctive $9.99. Listen, they wrote it well. They dealt with the issues well. And it seems like there's going to be a continuing theme of dealing with that loss for Sophie and her growth throughout the process of leading this team. And of course, we're going to get Aldous Hodge back in every once in a while. They sent him off to do something else, but him and Hardison are still together. Of course they are. They have to be. They can't not be. And they answered. Listen, it's just good. Listen. It's your favorite cousin that came back home and came back from college to come back home again. I'm a TV geek. This is good TV. It's just good TV. I'm verklempt. It's good TV. Anyway, party people, I need you to do me a favor. I need you, as I'm sweating here because I turned off my air conditioning. and I'm in a suit. I need you to do me a favor and tell me how correct I am about this leverage redemption. Go ahead and pepper me, because you know what? No, I was fairly diplomatic in the build up to this about the 2 wild cards, about Nate and about Brianna, Hardison's little sister. I was fairly diplomatic about that. So I wasn't like, this is gonna suck because of that. I was like, those are 2 wild cards. We'll see what happens. I've seen what happens. They're good. Okay? If you want to still pepper me, go ahead and do it down there in the comments section. I need you to like, I need you to share, I need you to subscribe. Every Sunday I do long overdue movie reviews, like I mentioned before, but I also have the greatest underground podcast you have never heard of before. You know how I've never heard of it? You know how I know you've never heard of it before? Because I watched the numbers. You need to. The links are going to be in the description. It's the How Do We Even Get Here podcast. 13 different audio platforms, as well as on YouTube. All the links are in the description. If you don't want to go down there, just go to tinyurl.com/getHereTube. That's the direct link to our YouTube channel. And in the meantime, the in-between time, I got to wrap this up. I got 10 more episodes to watch before I go to sleep tonight. In the meantime, in between time, cheers. Whew. Damn it, Hardison.
I'm a nice guy, I'm a nice place, with a nice smile on my nice face. Turn it back and I'm making sure my night's straight. And when you're out of town, I'll be making sure your wife's straight.